everyone, it's Max and welcome to my 2020 book haul, part 1. Now, I have been trying to plan this video since I started this channel back in August. And as the time went by, it just kept growing and growing. And I was first just going to be like, okay, since quarantine or since this month. But then I was like, you know what? I didn't buy that many books before quarantine, so how about the whole year? But then when I finally compiled everything, looking at it, it's huge and just so big. So we'll see. I think I'm going to be putting it into 2 parts just because it is very big. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I'm just gonna go, and once it gets to a certain time, I'll just stop and be like, and stay tuned for part 2. But let's get into it. So a book that I bought this year is, I feel like it's very hyped, and I think for pretty good reason, and that's The Lovely War by Julie Berry. This book is set during World War I, and it follows Aphrodite, who is found by her husband Hephaestus while she's having an affair with Ares, and to save herself, she tells this story of love in the time of war. And it follows these 2 women with their love interests during World War I. It was phenomenal. It was so good. I hear there is a slur. I can't remember what it is, to save my life. I just heard someone say it and I was like, whoa, I cannot remember what the slur is in reference to, so I am so sorry about that. So just do keep that in mind, but I did still find it to be absolutely phenomenal. The next book I have talked about quite a lot on this channel, but that is The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons, and kind of altogether this series. I am in love with this series. This series follows a core group of characters who are all in this destiny that is to destroy the world. The first book follows one of our main characters, this follows another one, and then in the third it kind of follows them together, and I'm in love with this. It's so good. There's dragons, there's bloodthirsty horses, there are just so many great things in this series. There's 3 books out, and I cannot wait for the 4th, and I just am absolutely loving this series. Please pick it up. I think it is so underrated. The next book is The Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. I have been reading this series since it started coming out. I absolutely loved the first one. Then I feel like they have steadily gone downhill for me. I don't know why. I think it's just, I keep forgetting exactly what happened after I read each book, which is not a great sign for the series as a whole. But by the time I was reading this, honestly, I could not remember most of what happened in the first and half of what happened in the second. I did feel like it wrapped up way too fast, but the series is about a kitsune shapeshifter, and she has a part of this scroll that summons the dragon, and whoever summons the dragon gets a wish. And she is hiding it, but then this assassin is sent also after the part of the scroll, and she pretends to just know where it is, and she says she will bring him to the scroll if he protects her. And so they go on this trip to find the scroll. I did really love the first one, and I can't speak about the representation because Julie Kagawa is white, and so am I, but I do enjoy Asian mythology and books centered around those cultures because I don't read a lot of it, and honestly I don't think there's enough of it out there. So I did really enjoy the series as a whole. I feel like if I sat down and just binge read the 3, I think I would enjoy all of them a lot more. I read one a year for 3 years. It just kind of got lost in translation. The next books right now so far in 2020 is one of my favorites, and that is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. Trisha Levenseller is an author that I have been on the fence about because I wasn't the biggest fan of the Daughter of the Pirate King duology, but I did really enjoy Warrior of the Wild, and this I absolutely loved. So for right now, she is definitely an author that is auto-buy for me. This is about a girl who is the second daughter of this guy, and her older sister finally gets engaged, which means she can have a season, and she decides to try and get the eye of the king and to kill him. She wants to become his wife and then, you know, become queen and then kill him so that she's the only ruling party. And he wants her to pretend to be his girlfriend, for lack of a better word, to appease his counsel. And so they become friends. It was so good. It's 300 pages and I just flew through it. I read this during the reading rush and it was just so good, and I highly suggest it. Now, for the opposite of one of my favorite books of the year, here's one of my most disappointing books of the year, and that is Upon a Burning Throne by Ashok K. Banker. This I wanted to love. It is a retelling of the Mahabharata, and I just really wanted to like this, but I just didn't, and I'm so sad about it. I have heard amazing things about it. I absolutely love this cover, and I have read parts of the Mahabharata in college, and I've been very fascinated with Indian mythology, with the Mahabharata and the Ramayana since I took a class on it, and I just was so excited for this, and it just did not deliver. Now, I am reading Arushan: The End of Time, and it's kind of a Mahabharata retelling, or kind of like they're descendants of the people of the Mahabharata, and I think Roshani Chakshi did a great job at giving a quick recap on the Mahabharata, where now this makes more sense, because I kept forgetting like where exactly this factored in, and I realized this is kind of a prequel to the Mahabharata, or like the main story of the Mahabharata. And that did make me kind of get it more, because like I wasn't that invested in the characters, but I realized that these characters are the parents of the main characters of the Mahabharata, and that kind of made a difference for me. I still did not really like it. I think the writing is very amateur, and for something of this size and this grandeur, I wanted better writing. And honestly, the world building is nil. There's absolutely no world building. If I didn't know that the Mahabharata was a Hindu text, I never would have put together where this took place, what their culture was, what their religion was. I feel like it barely touched on anything that this sort of book should have, and it just did not do it for me. I'm so disappointed. I don't know if I'm going to read the second one. I want to, but I just didn't like it. Speaking of disappointing books, Season of Storms by Andrzej Sapkowski. I really liked the first few books of The Witcher, but then I felt like the series went downhill. But this takes place, I think, in between the two short story collections. And so I thought that I'd like it because it was reminiscent of like the earlier Witcher books. But no, I think it's just his writing that for some reason deteriorated for me over time, because he wrote this after the series and I really didn't like it. The last book is still my absolute least favorite, but this is down there. I just didn't know what the point was. I'm like, okay, so he does these couple things, but I just didn't understand the reason why he wrote it. I don't think it did anything to further the plot or the characters, and it was just totally unnecessary and very unfortunate. Back on books that I loved, I definitely think this book is going to be in my favorites of the year. I don't know yet because it's not December, but I really think so, and that's Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. I loved this, and I feel like this book has very divisive opinions. I feel like either people love it or hate it. I loved it. It's about twins, Roger and Dodger. I know, it's awful. There's an explanation why, but I don't know why Seanan McGuire had to choose Roger and Dodger, but they were created by this man who's trying to find kind of the Garden of Eden, and they don't know that. They're split at birth and given to families and are raised, but then they have this telekinetic connection and they become friends, and then they kind of take on the bad guys together. It's so good. It was so fast-paced. It was just amazing. And there are snippets of a children's book in here for very understandable reasons. And I just was like, man, I wish she wrote the children's book. And the children's book, or the middle grade, is coming out in October. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait. But I absolutely love this. And If you liked Seanan McGuire in the past, I think you would like this. I know a lot of people who don't like the Wayward Children series tried this and didn't like it. And I'm like, okay, so I think it might be an author problem, but I absolutely loved it. Next book is probably going to be one of, if not the worst book of the year for me, and that is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. And I knew this book was also divisive, but I don't think for the reasons why I didn't like it. I liked the plot, I loved the writing, I liked all of the supporting characters, but the main character just was one of the worst people I've ever read about. He is all dead set on revenge against these people who killed his dad. But they killed his dad for something he did. Like, it's his fault. And I'm like, well, dude, like, you brought this on yourself. You literally attacked the crown prince. Like, what did you think would happen? And he just blames everyone for what he did. And it just, oh, I hated him. And he kept doing it throughout the book. Someone literally calls him on it in the last 10%. And it's like, and he's like, yeah, well, and I'm like, oh, so you know that he's had no character development in this 500+ page book. You just don't care. And it just, I hated it. Next book wasn't disappointing per se. I just don't quite understand the hype. That's Fortuna Swarm by KJ Sutton. Becca from Becca and the Books and Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction love this. I don't. Like, they're like, oh, it's so swoon worthy. And I'm like, not really. I don't really like the main love interest at all. He does some really despicable things to her right off the bat that I'm just like, no thanks. No thanks. And she's good. I like her. I like Fortuna Sworn quite a lot, but I hate the love interest and it's a romance. And I just, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. I do like how it ended. I like where it's going, but I don't really have any desire to continue it immediately. I'm sorry it's loud. My dad just had surgery, and so I have to stay here. My room doesn't have walls or a door, but I'm trying to film because I have to. I have to put out videos this week, and he doesn't seem to really care. But next book is The Lost City by Amanda Hawking. I got this in a Goodreads giveaway, and this took me back to when I first got a Nook and I read her books while they were being self-published. And it just was great. You know, it's fun. I've also read the second one. I got an ARC off NetGalley, and I have the third one as an ARC as well. And I'm really excited to finish out the trilogy. It's the last one in this world, and like, wow. It's been so many years. I can't believe it. And this is about a girl who's half troll, and she goes to this capital city to try and find her troll family. Next book is one that was very average. I don't think it was that good, but it wasn't bad, and that was Hot Dog Girl by Jennifer Dugan. And I do remember that this was a general consensus. It is a fake dating trope, which I love, and it's gay, which I also love, but the plot itself was not good. The main character was very annoying and very selfish and just very bland, and she just had the very stereotypical contemporary plot or character arc where she's bad, and then all of a sudden, oh, she's changed, she's so good now, and now everyone loves her. And it's just like, it was very average, and don't really suggest it. All right, I think we are coming to around the end of part 1 because it is getting late and we do have to make dinner and do other things. But the next book I'm talking about is The Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. I also enjoyed this one. I gave it about a 4 out of 5 stars. This is about a girl who's in Turkey with her dad trying to find Vlad the Impaler's ring, but when a boy from her past shows up saying that her dad has gone missing, they have to work together to find him. It was good. It was a fun adventure story that was just, it was fun, you know, that's all I can say. It wasn't that deep, it wasn't that dark. It was just a fun adventure story that had a little bit of fantastical elements, which honestly I kind of wish there wasn't, which is different for me. I didn't really think that the actual fantasy part of it really needed to be there, nor did it make sense. I just wish it was like the lore around this ring, but it wasn't actually real. You know, it's like the ring is real, but not the fantasy part. But it was, and I do think that that kind of brought it down for me. But overall, I did like it. The next book is The Damned by Renee Audier. This is the sequel to The Beautiful, which was one of my favorite books of 2019. And it was okay. I liked it, but I did not love it as much as the first one. The two main characters, the love interests, aren't together for like 3/4 of it, which obviously didn't love. This is about a girl who comes over from France in the 1920s, falls in with a group of vampires, and loved the first one, the angst and the pining and the longing and the bad boy love interest, but who's in love with her, was amazing. Second one, not as great, but still a lot of fun, and I'm really excited for the third. Alright, the second to last book that I'm going to be talking about in this video is The Book of Dragons, which is by a lot of authors but edited by Jonathan Strahan. This is just a compilation of short stories that deal with dragons. I loved how each story was so different. I felt like they would probably use a lot of the same tropes, but each one was so unique and so different, and I really, really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars overall. It was good though. I definitely suggest it. And then the last book I'm going to be talking about today is absolutely going to be one of my favorites of the year, and that is 7 Blades in Black by Sam Sykes. So good. All I'm going to say is it's about a girl trying to get revenge against 7 people. That's it. I think if you read the back, it gives something away that I think would have been so much stronger if you're reading it trying to figure out what these people did to her. Because in the synopsis, it says, it's like, this is what they did. And I'm like, why would you say that? Because already when it's revealed what happens, it is so impactful and so strong that I think if I didn't know what was going to happen going in, I think it would have just punched me in the gut. Because it feels like it's supposed to be a surprise. They hint at stuff throughout the whole book, but it's never said blatantly what they did to her until she relives that scene. And it was amazing, so good. Please read it. There's a female-female romance. Our main character is so good. I love Sal, and please read it. Please read it. Everyone read it. It's amazing. I love it. Pierre Ford agrees with me. Alright everyone, I think that's all I'm going to be talking about today. I will see you soon with another video, and keep your eyes out for part 2. Bye!